Paranormal Dimensions is a regular feature on Mondays on the Paranormal UK radio network. Any opinions or comments made by any guest are their own, and they do not necessarily reflect any of the presenters or network's opinions.
You're moving into a land of both shadow and substance, of things and ideas.
Going to be definitely interesting, something you don't want to miss.
This is Sacha Christie, and you're listening to the Paranormal UK Radio Network, the UK's biggest paranormal network. And this is Paranormal Dimensions with David Young.
Hello and welcome to the show. Thank you for the introduction, Sacha. Sacha will be back shortly. She'll be joining me with today's guest, Laura Plumb Sayers. Just before I bring Sacha on, if you'd like to get in touch with me at any time, my email address is davidyoung2qn@yahoo.co.uk. That's davidyoung, 2qn, all one word, @yahoo.co.uk. Okay, now today's guest is Laura Plumb Sayers, and as I said, Sacha will be joining me shortly. Just before I speak to Sacha, it is rightly said that birth and death are two short facts of life. We know a great deal about birth, the prelude to independent existence, but death remains shrouded in mystery. Is death the end of this existence, as many people believe, and as many scientists assume is demonstrated by the facts? Or is death the transition into another phase of life, with all the challenges and promises that such a transition may present? Well, hopefully we'll get a bit closer to the answer to that with today's guest, which is Laura Plumb Sayers. But just before that, once again, I'd like to welcome back as guest co-host, Sacha Christie. Hello, Sacha. Welcome to the show.
Hello, darling. Nice to be here again.
Yeah, nice to have you back on again. So what have you been up to?
Well, the past couple of months I've not been on Facebook because I decided I needed to do absolutely nothing.
No, I know, we've all been worried about you.
I know. Well, I'm okay. It's one of them things, you know, when social media is just like one of those
it gets you down.
You don't need to be.
I know, you and I had a little chat, didn't we? But so we knew what it was all about, but you're feeling a lot better now, are you?
I am, yeah. I had my daughter come for a week, and she's in Leeds, so I don't see her that often, so that lifted me a bit, and then, I don't know, I just started to feel a bit better, so I come back online.
Yeah. I mean, I think everything's been getting everyone down as well, but then you get some added things that get added to it, like you had, and it's not very nice, is it? You know.
No, it was a little bit of a...
Especially when you try to do people...
romantic time, but, I don't really want to go into it.
No, of course not. Of course not. No, especially when...
Yeah. But, there was a bit of an incident, and it just left me reeling. It had a bigger effect on me than I really realised that initially. You know, like things often do, they kind of get worse a little bit after they've happened. And,
it's one of those things, one of those unexpected things,
one of them trauma response modes, and it's taken me a little while to come back out of it, but I'm getting there.
Good. I'm glad to see you back to normal anyway.
I don't know what normal is, David.
I don't think I do either. Now, Jill and
My version of normal.
So I haven't done too much either. I mean, Jill and I have managed to get away for a couple of days for a little bit of a change. We went to Wiltshire. So just for I think it was 2 nights away, so we had sort of like 3 full days sort of thing, which was quite nice. A nice little break. The weather could have been a little bit better, but
I don't think I've been down that way for about 20 years.
No, I hadn't been there for a long time, but we didn't go and see... we drove past Stonehenge on the way home, but on the 303, God, that was a nightmare.
Yeah.
It was completely chock-a-block. Well, I think there'd been an accident. A caravan had turned over or something further along the line, and we were stuck there for it just seemed like forever, you know. And I was getting a pain in my back. I mean, I don't usually get that, but God, I was really, you know, I just wanted to stop, you know. So when we got to the next service station, I thought, oh, we've got to go in there and sort of have a hamburger or something.
Stay here for 5 hours.
Yeah, that's right. That's what you feel.
I've done that before.
But apart from that, we saw things like Salisbury Hill, is it? No, Silbury Hill, isn't it? Things like that, you know. I'll tell you what, something that surprised me with Silbury Hill, I always thought that you were allowed to walk up it, but you're not allowed to walk up it. But people do walk up it.
Yeah, especially on the night, but you're not supposed to.
No, you can sort of see a pathway from one side of it, can't you? But on the other side of it, where you get into the car park, there's a sign saying you're not allowed to go in there. But obviously you go around the other side, and people must approach it from the other side and go up it anyway. So, but I think
you can't keep people off a do not touch sign.
No. But it must be that you can go the other side and say, oh, I didn't see the sign, sorry, if anyone says anything.
Sorry, I didn't have my glasses on.
Anyway, I suppose we ought to get into the show. We've got Laura Plumb Sayers, our friend Laura, on, and she's going to tell us all about her exciting adventures in the paranormal world.
Some right adventures as well,
Yeah. So, shall we get straight into it?
Let's do it.
Bring her in. Right. Okay.
Hi, Laura.
Hello, Laura.
All right, sweetheart.
Hello, Laura. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
I'm pleased to welcome you to the show. It's been a little bit of, we've been trying to get this off the ground for a couple of weeks now, haven't we? It's been to and fro a little bit, but it's been like that a bit lately with the show. I don't know what's been going on, but anyway, we've sorted it out. We're on and we're doing it now, so that's good. So I'm quite excited to hear all about, really, I mean, I obviously know you and I've met you and everything, but I don't know too much about what, paranormal, experiences and things you've had.
Where do I begin?
Well, I guess start
at the beginning.
That's probably the best place to start. I mean, what's your earliest, memories and, experiences?
As a child, I always had a lot of, used to see a lot of spirit. But I was a very sick child, and I was brought up by a very strong Catholic Italian mother. And she always used to say that it was bad, it was the devil, and it used to frighten me. So I used to try and avoid it. But really, the more I tried to avoid it, as you'll know, Sasha, the more they'd pester you. And it eased off for a while in my teens, as I was distracted with other things. And then when I got married and had children, we moved away. We moved to South Africa. And little did I realise that where we were living was on a Zulu burial ground.
Oh, wow.
And it was like an alarm clock, really, for things to start happening. The first thing that started to happen was I had a dream about a bus crash with some children, and I kept seeing these two children, and it really upset me. And because they were saying that that they hadn't been found and they needed help. Anyway, the next day I was in the living room and the news came on that there'd been this bus crash in Johannesburg, and that the children on the bus were from a school nearby, and that two of the children hadn't been found. And when they showed the children on the TV, they were exact two children that I'd seen in my dream. Well, I dropped the plate. We didn't get tea that night. And it went on for quite a long time that I kept seeing these children, and I basically didn't know what to do. I would now, but I didn't then. And then about 3 weeks after the bus crash, on the news it came that the bodies had been found, and then contact ceased really. And from that point onwards, things just started to happen. While we were living over there, I was sort of activated really, and I found out afterwards that the chalets that we were living in were based on an old Zulu burial ground, and this is what had activated my psychic ability to return. And from that point, things kept happening. I remember going to the cupboard and putting the laundry away, and the children were only young, and seeing this figure of Jesus sat in the cupboard. And remember shutting the cupboard really quickly, thinking, am I going crazy here because of the fact that I was seeing this figure. And I didn't want to frighten the children at that time because they were only very young. But I opened the cupboard again, and he was there, sat there smiling at me, and he said, oh, don't worry, you're okay. Anyway, that night I went to bed, and I was woken up about 3 o'clock, and I saw in the corner of the bedroom this translucent hand, and as I sat up, he took my hand, and it actually went through it like an invisible, door would be. And he said, don't worry, he says, I'm here to help you. And that was really the start of it to this point of where I am now. But then later on, while we were still in South Africa, because it's a very spiritual place, and a lot of the native people follow a lot of cultural beliefs that overlap really what we believe in. And I hadn't been feeling very well for a few days, and I said to my husband, I said, I've got to go to bed. I just don't feel well. But before I went to bed that night, I was going round the house, and I was like trying to finish jobs off in the house that I would normally not do. And I felt this urgency that I had to do these jobs. Anyway, that night I went to bed, and I wasn't feeling very well. And unknown to me, I had epilepsy as a young child. The epilepsy came back that night, and I ended up having like 9 epileptic fits. And I woke up in the morning, I didn't know where I was. And Michael took me to the doctors, and I was put in this hospital, and I was in a coma for quite a few days. And when I woke up, I thought, oh my God, I've died here, because there was just an old woman in a bed, and she was moaning, and there were like bars around my bed. Anyway, that particular day, Michael came with the kids, and I didn't recognise him. I didn't recognise the children, anything. I went home, and it was familiar, but it wasn't familiar, and everything seemed strange. And people were ringing up and saying, hello, how are you? And I actually were crying on the phone. I said, I don't know who you are. And the doctor just put it down to the fact that I had had all these fits, and my memory had been a bit, funny afterwards. Anyway, not long afterwards, I was reading a book, and the book struck a chord with it. It was called Strangers and Monsters by Ruth Montgomery, and it was talking about walk-ins. And I said to Michael, I said, this seems really, really creepy, this. Really, really creepy. I said, it just feels so familiar. Anyway, I found out by a medium afterwards that I'd had a walk-in experience, and the walk-in had come in while I was in the coma. There were lots of things from that point then that didn't make sense. I started having a lot of women's problems, and I started having a lot of allergies that I'd never had in my life. Doctors couldn't understand anything that were going And the actual doctor turned round and told me, he said, "Oh, you're being neurotic. You're like just a typical woman."
Typical man, doctor.
Typical man.
Doctor.
And this was in an hospital in Benoni, where around me were all these prisoners in shackles, because it turned out it was the day for all the prisoners to go and have their checkups, basically. And I thought, oh my, anyway, I slapped him and told him what I thought and walked out. But from that point, I started to become more spiritual, and from that point, automatically, without my trying, I started doing trance mediumship, and it was something that I didn't know or didn't want to do, because I was really frightened, because I had no control over all of this, and nobody seemed to know what was happening to me, and there was nowhere I could go with all of this. Really, it was all really, really strange.
That happens to us all, doesn't it? When it all starts waking up, we actually think we're going crazy, and that we've got nowhere to go with it.
I know, but the fact is that it was a walk-in experience. I've never heard of walk-ins.
No, I haven't. Now, I mean, as you're saying walk-ins, I don't really understand what that means.
Basically, the easiest thing to explain it is a soul replacement. It basically means that the person who's had the experience, the walk-in or the caretaker as they call it, has agreed. It doesn't just happen to anybody. They've agreed before they come that if life gets too difficult, that their soul will walk out of that body and a new soul will come in and have the experiences of an earthly experience. But they don't necessarily need to go through the birthing process, because they're quite advanced beings anyway. Most of them are from other dimensions. And so when this happened to me, I started to investigate. There used to be an organisation in America, which is not there, called Walk-ins for Evolution, but it's disbanded now. And I got a lot of information from there at that time. And they were saying that 1 in 10 people is actually a walk-in, but they don't always recognise it as that, because they may have had a bad illness or something, and they've been in a coma, and they've actually changed their perspective on life once it's come round.
Most walk-ins don't even know that they are. It can happen like in illness or even death. Like you'd be brought back to life, but you're not the original. Your body doesn't have the original soul.
No.
You were born with. This is the theory. I mean, I don't throw this one away because I find it really interesting. And we have possessions, which is spirit, but this walking thing is on the soul level. We don't know where the soul's coming from, but, it's not like a spiritual possession. It's something else entirely, like a complete replacement. But you still retain all your memories, or most of them. But you might have like huge chunks missing from your childhood that you can't remember. There's all kinds of weird things, but you could say, probably trauma, and just replacing some, I don't know, sexual assault as a child with something else, because they lay that on us all the time.
This organisation, I'm sorry to butt in, this organisation said that the youngest walk-in was 2 weeks old, a baby of 2 weeks old. But the interesting thing about it was it takes 10 years for a walk-in to fully adjust to a body, a physical body. Now, between 7 and 10 years, 10 years actually later to the day, I was ill again, and I ended up having an operation in Burnley General Hospital. And I remember waking up that night and seeing this bright orange light in the sky. And I said, oh, for goodness sake, if you're going to help me, please come and help me, I'm in so much pain, or take me, I've had enough. And basically, they'd taken all what they call them plaster things off my body in the morning, and I was laying in bed and I couldn't sleep. And I said to the nurse, I can't sleep, and I'm in so much pain. And she said, oh, try and get some sleep. And I was looking out the window in the hospital, laying in bed, because it was a summer evening, and so the curtains were open, and this orange light was flashing at me, like a traffic light flashing at me. And then the next thing I know, I was in a deep sleep. And when I came round, I actually had all these plasters on me again, and all the nurses in the hospital on that ward were all stood round my bed. And I said, what's wrong? And they said, oh, we thought we might have to take you back down to surgery. We were really worried about you. And I said, well, I've got all these plasters on me. And she said, oh, no, you must be mistaken. We took them all off this morning. I said, but there's all these plasters on me. And I said, my stomach's hurting. And she said, no, you're all right. And the matron actually sat with me that night. And anyway, I went home from the hospital, and I couldn't remember anything. And then on the Saturday evening I went home on the Wednesday, and the Saturday evening my friend came to see me, and she's a medium, and she sat down with me and she said, I need to do a reading with you. And I didn't want it because I weren't feeling up to it. But she was very insistent, and she's not the kind of medium that happily does readings for people. So I went in the kitchen and I made a brew, and she sat down and she said, I want to tell you, Laura, that you're walking. I said, oh, but you know that. She says, no, I've got this very tall, like space-like person with me. And she said, she wants me to tell you that the illness that you're just going through, she said, you've had another walking experience. And she said, you're from the Pleiadians, and she said, I want you to know that they're all around you, and you're here for a short time, and your name is not Laura, it's Huna.
Wow. Well, that's some story.
I know, and then from that point on, things just kept happening and happening and happening. And quite a few times they took me on the ships and everything, and were showing me stuff. And then not long after this, the night I saw that orange light in the sky, I rung somebody and told them that I'd seen this orange light in the sky. Actually, it was Sam, and he laughed. He said, "Oh yeah." And I rung up whoever, this newspaper, to find out if there'd been anything reported in the sky that night. Anyway, on the following day, a friend of mine came, and who lives near the hospital, and said, guess what, at 12 o'clock at night I've seen this orange light, Laura. Well, next thing I know, I get onto the internet and have a look, and I rung up, and there'd been reports to the Ministry of Defence on that particular day that people had seen an orange light.
The orange light fascinates me because the UFO that I saw in 1967 was an orange thing going across the sky. So that orange seems to come up quite a bit, doesn't it, Sasha?
I've seen an orange one, yeah. I've seen one that looked like the glow of a street light had just left the street light. It looked transparent orange. It was weird. It was like an egg. But yeah.
And that's where it all started for me, and I started doing trance mediumship. It wasn't something that I said, I'm going to sit in a circle and try. It just happened. Happened.
What is that exactly, Laura? What do you mean by trance mediumship? Like, is it like channeling people, or is it when somebody comes and sits in the air and talks through you, or is that...
Yeah, exactly what you've just said, Sasha. Yeah, exactly what you've just said. That's what it is. I didn't know it was that. I mean, I sat in a circle in South Africa, and I'd had a very strict medium. It was an Irish lady, and she wouldn't let you. She had her rules. She followed the old book, sort of old school way, really. Yeah. but it paid off in the end, because throughout my spiritual journey, I've never really ever felt threatened. And then not long after all this happened, I was at home, I was in bed again, and I was woken up again at 3:00 in the night, and the whole bedroom was like ablaze with golden sunlight. That's all I can describe it. And there was two beings, all I can describe them as, my nearest sort of explanation and look at how they were, was like the beings in that film, what they call it, Cocoon. And they were really tall, and I remember them really coming, the mother, and she said, "Oh, I'm your mother." Well, as you know, we spoke, Sacha, at the past, I haven't had a great relationship with my mother over years, and she put out her hand to me and she said, "Oh, I'm your mother, don't be afraid." And she told me that she was from the Pleiades and that she was from my past, but she also said, "We will be the future for the human race. This is how you'll be. You'll have light bodies, not physical bodies." And she came for 3 nights on the trot, and on the 3rd night she brought a smaller being with her, exactly the same but smaller. And she said, "Oh, this is your sibling." And I thought, well, that's a strange word to say, sibling. And she stayed with me for about 5 minutes. And I can't explain. I've never felt love like it in my life. There's no explanation for it. I just felt it like I was filling up with all this love and this warmth inside me. I can't explain it. And as she turned to go, she waved to me, and she only had like 3 fingers and a thumb, but she bent her thumb and her 4 fingers and to say bye-bye. I've never forgot that. And then she said, we'll be in touch. And I've seen them on and off ever since.
No, Laura, when you're saying that about the love that you felt, it reminds me that you'll know her, Ann Devereaux, Shirley Ann Devereaux.
No, I don't.
Right, okay, so she used to go to Grove, because that's where I met her, and she lived in Ingleton and Ingleborough, which is Yorkshire, and she sees UFOs a lot. But this one time, her daughter's son, so her grandson Alex, I don't know what the little lad was called, 2 brothers, the mother and the daughter in the car, they're driving along the road, and then all of a sudden they see this bright light, and then they've gone from being in the car to now being out of the car and in this bright light. She said she was surrounded by this golden light, and she was filled with all this love, like this feeling that was just so amazing. And they said that, I can't remember all the details, but I remember that, that they were leaving, and she was like saying, "Please don't leave me, please don't leave me." And the next thing you know, like, one of them's in the road, one of them's in the wrong side of the car, whoever was driving was in the passenger seat, and one of them was in the road. I think this is the story. But anyway, afterwards, she was mortally depressed. Like, completely and utterly devastated, because she had to be here, and then she knew she would never ever feel anything like it again. Now, it wasn't just her saying this, it was all 4 of them telling this story, and I've spoken to Alex as well. I've spoken to him in years, but he was a young lad when I first met him, and I met him at the probe conference at the YMCA in Lytham. Yeah. So I thought that's why you might have met her. But this is probably, 10 years ago or more, maybe. 15.
Before all this happened, though, the first time I was going through a lot of things were happening in my life. My marriage weren't great. My kids were terrible at this time, and I had attempted to commit suicide previously, and it didn't work. And then not long after this, that's what happened. So I wasn't in a great Now, people might turn around and say, well, it was because your mind was in a certain state, but it was a complete opposite, Sacha. It was so euphoric, it was unbelievable, you know. And every time these beings come to me, because they've been coming to me a lot over the years, and I go off on quite a lot of journeys at night, I always know when I've been, because the next day I'm absolutely knackered. But I always feel kind of euphoric. Michael gets upset because he never gets to go on it with me.
Well, I never get anything nice. Everything that's happened to me has been rancid.
They've shown me all sorts of things, and then not long afterwards I've seen it in technology here, and they've told me all sorts of things. I really do trust them, you know, where unfortunately other people have the opposite effect or the opposite experiences. And then one of the times they took me onto the ship, and there on the ship was Jesus, as is known as Sananda, as is, and again I just felt this love. I can't explain it. It's just. And on the ships, you know, there's been times when I've seen my children on the ships, and it turned out that all the miscarriages that I'd had, the children have actually grown up in spirit, and, you know, they've been to do with these ETs.
Wow. So would they be actually your spirit guides, do you think, or are they actually separate beings?
They're separate beings. I do have a spirit guide that is a light being, and his name is Solar, and he's Aztec priest, but he was also in Egypt, but he's been with me for 30-40 years to my knowledge, and he's like my gatekeeper, because I don't know if you understand, but for people listening, that you can have more than one guide at any one time, but you always get one that is your gatekeeper or your guardian angel, whatever terminology you want to say, that stays with you always. And even when to this day, when I channel, he comes through first, and he brings through the beings, you know, before anybody else comes through. He's the one that comes through, and he basically, like, you know, it's okay for you to have this experience with this energy, or because that's what it all is. We're all energy, you know, and things.
I've always wondered what a gatekeeper would be, because I saw a psychic in Leeds a long time ago, and everything that she said was going to happen in my life has actually happened, and she gave some real specific details. And she said to me, "You've got a gatekeeper who's Russian." Yeah. And I was like, right, okay, but that was just a little bit of information and a whole slew of stuff that she said. And I didn't really pay much attention, but it always stuck in my head. And I've always wondered, what is the job of this person? You know, what is this gatekeeper? What do they do?
It's to protect you. You can call him a guardian angel, you can call him whatever. It depends on your belief system. Everybody has different belief systems, and that's fine, you know.
But the way that she said it, that he was extra to whatever spirit guides I had. She told me that the room was literally full of people, and that everywhere I go I have a crowd.
Well, what happens is that throughout our stages in our life, you know, in spirit terms, we have 7-year cycles. And every 7 years in your life on the earth plane, you things change. You know, you get the saying 7-year itch, basically. But
also, every 7 years, all the cells in your body have regenerated themselves, so they're not the same cells that you had 7 years ago. All your bone cells, everything.
That actually happens too, but on a spiritual level, you get.
So that doesn't surprise me. Yeah.
On the spiritual level, things change, and we have more than one guide at any given time, but some of them come and some of them go. all I can describe it as is when you're at secondary school, you have more than one teacher for different subjects. And when you've learnt that subject, that teacher's no longer part of your education. Well, it's the same. It's the same with guides. And if you want to think of an easy way of thinking of your gatekeeper, he's like the headmaster. He's the one that's over, or the supervisor. But instead of being just with you for that time with those particular guides, he's assigned to you for life from the day you're born. Sometimes some of them have been with you in other lives too, and have probably been teachers, and you've been pupils of theirs, and they've chosen, and this is what people don't realise, is that when you have a guide and they're working with you, they've chosen to put their development and their advancement on hold to help you, you know, and that's what they've chosen to do at this particular time, and to be with you. But it's usually quite a high being that's a gatekeeper. You know, you can have like your mum or your grandmother as guides, and you can have Indian guides, and you can have whatever. They all come in to teach you different lessons that you've come to learn. But some of them, your gatekeeper stays with you more because he's the
well,
the
I hope
boss.
he starts opening some better bloody doors.
So
Send him a memo. Oi.
Yeah, so Laura, I was going to say, Laura, so when you go on these other trips with these other beings, would you say your gatekeeper or somebody would go with you as well?
He takes me. He comes and takes me, always.
So he's there to look after you, basically, to make sure nothing happens to you.
Yeah. If you're working spiritually, and we've all got gatekeepers, we don't all know them. We don't all know who they are. If you're working spiritually and something happens to you, your gatekeeper's not doing his job to protect you, basically. Yeah. And I talk to them. I swear at them. What are you bloody doing? Come on, I'm not doing this. But they want that.
I'm an absolute raging alcoholic with bad nerves.
No, I'm not.
Keeping me safe. The things I've done in my life.
but they're there for you. They're there for you. They're assigned to you.
I obviously needed some big guns.
I think you need two, Sasha.
Yeah, I think
one on each side.
I think the thing is, Sasha, I think the point is with you, we're all here to learn a lesson, aren't we? So you're here learning an earthly lesson of some sort, you know, whatever that is. but
I won't comment.
But of course, your spiritual self is not.
I better graduate. I'm telling you.
No, but your spiritual self is not the same person, is it really? No. So, you know.
In a way, we're all a bit schizophrenic in a way, but we don't always realise it, because there's from what I understand from the lessons that they've taught me, because, you know, when I meditate, they give me quite a few lessons about things. You know, sometimes they tell me off too. And they said to me that, you know, schizophrenia and all these sort of illnesses are all borderline really. And they're saying that we're all schizophrenic in one way, because there's two parts of us. There's your spiritual side and there's your physical side. And unfortunately, it's not always understood in this world about that. And sometimes with people who suffer schizophrenia, you know, it's a very thin line, because they're on the borderline of the spiritual aspect as well. But because we don't understand that in the medical terms, there's very often people that's been sort of put into asylums and things that shouldn't be there.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's like they've been put away in prison, haven't they, for it, basically?
Yeah.
I put myself in the psychiatric ward. We don't call them asylums anymore. This is the psychiatric unit. Because I actually thought that, well, if I'm hearing voices and seeing things, then I actually must be schizophrenic, and that's what's wrong with me. And then if I go to, you know, and I couldn't see properly and I couldn't hear properly, everything was being really, really weird. Walls were breathing, floors were moving, everything. It was absolutely nuts. And so, you know, I was in there, and the reason that I was in there was I had a baby, but I'd also had not long before the UFO experience in Wales. And then the paranormal stuff that was happening to me was just almost on a daily basis. And I thought, this isn't right. This is like my environment is interacting with me, so this is not normal. You know, I'd be thinking things, and then an advert or somebody on the TV would say something that fit exactly with the conversation going on in my head, but it wasn't just one. It was like all the time, and I thought, something's wrong with me. You know, like I'm maybe thinking in a loop, and I'm thinking that I've thought this, and then they're saying that, and then I'm thinking, you know, that I'm getting muddled in my thoughts. But anyway, I had this panic attack that lasted hours, and I ended up going into hospital, and I stayed a couple of months. And I thought I was literally insane, and all they said was everything was to do with adrenaline. And it was just that my adrenal glands just would not shut off, ever. And adrenaline, when it breaks down, it forms adrenochrome that actually alters your vision, and you can hallucinate and all this stuff. So I thought, oh, well, that's what it is then. I'm hallucinating because of the adrenaline. And then when all that died off and went away, I was still having experiences. And when I was like 9, I was 10 or 11, when my gran and granddad had both died, and they both walked past me, and my sister saw them as well, you know, I have to remind myself of these events and go back into my childhood and remember all the other things that I saw when I was little and growing up as a teenager, and because it wasn't just that period of time when I thought, oh, it's all adrenaline, because I've had this all my life. You know, I've literally tried to debunk all of it all of the time, and I can't, and that's why I'm such a freaked out person, because I can't.
I had a very traumatic childhood, and I think that a lot of spiritual people have had, and I think by having that, I think that's why a lot of spiritual people have a lot of empathy for other people, because they've experienced a lot of difficult things in their own lives, and that. But what I'm trying to get across is that it's a lot more common now than it used to be, that people about walking experiences that they've had. And, you know, I've read a few books. There's a lady in America called Sheila Seppi. She's just wrote a book, and which is interesting. And people are starting to come forward about this experience or this phenomena now. And it's been going on since before the First World War. In fact, probably longer. But people have never ever really given it a name. And what I'm concerned about is that there's a lot of people out there that's probably having these experiences, and probably coming even from a family that's Christian, that maybe feel that they might be, you know, sort of possessed or whatever. To know that what they're experiencing, that a lot of other people are, and it's okay, because it's nothing that they've done wrong. That they need to be aware that, you know, they're not alone. I mean, I was on my own. I mean, I had my husband and 2 children, but I didn't know where to go, and I was in a strange country when all this was happening. And I really thought, because of my Christian upbringing as a Catholic, that I was going mad. And obviously with my epilepsy that I'd had from birth, I thought I was going mad, because I had a mother that kept telling me, oh, you're going mad, you're working with the devil, you do. So even though they were trying to, you know, Spirit were trying to put this on me and make me recognise what was happening to me for my own sake, I was getting pulled in 3 directions, really, because I had one part of my family telling me it were bad, I had Spirit pulling me another way, and then I had what I felt about myself, the guilt that I felt inside myself about all of this and not knowing where to turn. I felt like I was sort of having a breakdown, really. And I think there's a lot of people, when they get involved, not just with walking experiences, but with a lot of spiritual experiences, that feel like this. And need to understand that we are all spirit first in a human body, you know, just visiting really.
Jason Andrews is a walker.
Pardon?
Jason Andrews. Remember the Andrews family?
No.
They were around in that. You might not have been in the country. Now, this is to do with the reptilians, not the Pleiadians. But his mum Anne was trying to find some help for him in the early 80s because he was remembering all these abductions and all this stuff was being said to him by these reptilians. And they said that he'd been convinced to agree to let them travel within him on their energy in him. Yeah. So, but this is not like, this is like a permanent situation, but then they abandoned him as the reptilians do. They abandon people when they're no good.
I had it twice, because the first time I had it when the children were young was when I went into the coma. I never ever got that time back, and I got the name Canesta. That was my name that they gave me. And then the second time, 7 years after or 10 years after, they gave me the name Huna. And when I lived in New Zealand, it was really weird because the Pleiadians play very much a big part in their Maori culture, which was unknown to me. And I had a lot of things happen to me, which is another talk really. But the Pleiadians actually gave the Hawaiian people and the people from that side of the world a healing technique called Huna healing. So it was funny that I got that name. But before we went to New Zealand, we went to a Mind, Body, Spirit in Manchester, and I went and had a guide picture done, and I explained a little bit to the woman about my experiences, and I said, could I sort of have a picture? I said, don't be surprised if it's E.T. looking or whatever. Anyway, what came out, what surprised me, she drew an Hawaiian girl. And I said, who's that? I said, that's nobody that I recognise. And she said, that's you. She said, that's you, Huna. She said, that's what Huna represents. And I went, well, but that was just strange that happened. But then another time we'd gone to a Mind, Body, Spirit, and I used to work with a guy called Nick Clark. He did a lot of paintings and a lot of drawings and things of people that I channeled. Unfortunately, somebody else took credit for them and put them in their book. And so I didn't get any, sort of recognition for it, even though it were my guide.
That's crazy, but typical.
And anyway, on one particular day, Nick had done this great big picture of this woman, and it turned out that her name was Maya or Mia, and she was from Alpha Centuria. Now, the week before, we used to have a group called the Solar Group, and the week before, after I'd finished some channeling, Nick came to me and he said, I think we need to sit a bit longer, Laura. And we sat a bit longer, and this lady came through me called Maya, and she said that she wanted me to help her. She was from Alpha Centuria, and that she'd been in her ship, had been invited by the British or Scottish government to come and help them. And as they came to land or where they were meant to be, they got shot down. A pilot shot them down, and all her people that were in the ship were killed. But she managed to survive by flipping from dimension to dimension. And she came to me and asked if we could help by sending out healing. So we sent out this healing, and in return, she allowed Nick to do this painting of her. Anyway, we did the painting, and we went with it to the Mind Body Spirit, with other ones that he'd done as well. And while we were there, this young couple came, and they had children, and the children said, "Why have you got a picture of my mum? That is just my mum." And I went, it's not you. When she came up, this girl with the children, she was a spiteful image, and it spooked her really. Anyway, for quite a few times, you know, Mia kept coming to me, and eventually she was able to go home, and we could send healing to the people that she'd lost, and whatever. But not long before that, on one of my trips on the ship, I'd seen this girl on the ship and a boyfriend, and as she turned round to talk to me at this place in Manchester, and without this picture, the instant recognition that we both had with each other was incredible. And you don't get that often. And in the end, you know, I don't know where the picture is now. I think it's gone. I think he sold it, but just things like that keep happening to me throughout my life, really.
I've got a question for you, Laura.
That one now.
When you say you visited on these ships, what do they actually look like on the ships? Have you got any sort of memory of how they look?
The ships that I see are circular, and they're quite massive. They're really. I visualise myself going up these steps. And as I go in, there's like a room, a round circular room, and it's not got a lot of things in it, but there's on the entrance there's always 2 light beams, and when I say light beams, they're not physical like us, they are light beams, and it depends what the messages they want to give me is where they take me. When I first started going, they used to take me to a room, and it was with a great big television, and they would show me, and I weren't the only one there. There were people from all different nations there, and they would show you on the TV what was happening to the world. And a few times they've taken me in the cockpit, and I've actually gone round the Earth and seen, you know, the Earth, and they've pointed it out. It's a beautiful place, is the Earth. It really is when you're looking at it from that perspective. But the last time they took me into this room. It was a circular room, and there were 2 of these beautiful beings at the door. I never feel afraid. I've never felt fear with them at all. Never. I must add that. And he brought this tablet to me. Very similar to what children have as tablets, and he said to me, they speak to you telepathically, and that they've got long faces, not so much almond eyes, but longish faces, and they have like a white robe on, and the reason they wear the white robe, he's told me, is because if they had to show themselves fully in their full state, it would be too bright for the human beings to be able to see them properly without affecting them, because that's just how they are. And he brought this tablet to me, and I said, "Where's the buttons?" And he started laughing, and he said, "There's no buttons." And I said, "Well, what do you do with it?" He said, "You work it with your mind." And I went, "Oh, well, how do we do that?" He said, he gave me this tablet, and he was laughing, and he said, figure it out. He said, they never give you, everything that Spirit gives you always is a puzzle. They never give you a full answer of anything, or they give it in a way that you've got to work it out. I found that out over the years, you know. And he showed me this puzzle and this tablet, which... And he said, have a go. And he says, think of something. So I thought of something. And the next thing I know, it was on this tablet what I was thinking. There was like a screen. And he said, he said, you think the technology that you've got now is fantastic. He said, this is the future. He said, you haven't seen anything yet. And then he said, it's time to go. And the next thing I know, I woke up and I were in my bed.
Well, that sort of technology is actually coming along now, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. And he just had to be careful. He said, you know, with this technology, you know, people can be easily swayed. He said, if you can think something, it's real. He said, if you can think something, it's already in the ether, waiting for you to create it. So he says, just be very careful with this technology, because it can be swayed either way. It can be manipulative, or it can be, you know, progressive.
Yeah, the reason I asked about the inside of the ship, I just wondered if you saw any sort of instruments or whatever apart from like the television and the iPad type thing.
On one occasion, a few occasions when I first go, it was like there was like a lot of I would call them computers. And lots of things, but again, they were worked with the mind. They weren't worked with switches or anything. Everything was worked with the mind.
And what about colours? Were the walls coloured, or were they, you know, did you see rivets or anything in the walls to join the?
No, everything was quite bland. Silver. Everything was silver in colour. Silver. The walls. Everything was silver. But sometimes when I've gone, and not just myself, but other people have been on the ships at the same time, because it's not just me that, you know, I'm not just any privileged person. There's people from all over the world that go on these journeys, and they've taken me to places, and I don't know where these places are, but when you've come off of the ship, the colours of the flowers and the plants and everything is mesmerising. I've never seen colours like it. Never.
Do you think you're given a glimpse of what it's like when after we die? Because that's we get those sort of descriptions, don't we? When people pass over and they come back to, you know, if they have a near-death experience.
It could be. I can't deny that, because I don't know. It could be, but he said it's how your world should be. Right. He said to me, this is how your world should be. He said, these are the colours. This is how he says, but you don't realise what you're doing. He said, you know, you don't realise what you're doing. They're very concerned about how we treat the planet. They are very concerned about that. And like they say, you know, there's like a domino effect, because how we treat this planet affects the whole galaxy, really. It's like it affects one after the other, really.
It makes you wonder why they're not abducting and taking people who are like, you know, the CEOs of these companies that are pumping all this crap out into the atmosphere, into the water. You know, why are they not abducting them and giving them all of this? You know, look at this is what's going to happen to the Earth. I personally have never seen anything on any screen, never been told about any message for humanity. I've never had anything like that, but I hear it all the time, and it makes me wonder, why are they not getting presidents, politicians? What is it? Are they, you know, like, are they under some sort of treaty where they're with the evil ETs and nobody can touch them, so they're just going to destroy the planet anyway? I don't get it. There's some parts of this phenomena that I don't understand, and that is one part of it.
I don't understand what's happened to me. I don't, and I often sit and think, why me? Why am I so special? Because I don't class myself as special. I mean, there's so many times that Sam used to say, why don't you go up and talk about it? I didn't feel for me that Probe was the right place for me, and I'm not a person I can advertise you with no problem, but I can't do it for myself. I have a problem with that. But from what I understand, it's to do with vibrations. Like attracts like, and also I think there's a lot of factors to do with it. I think it's what we've agreed in before we came, what, you know, I think what we bring, what is around us, because sometimes the experiences, from what I've been told, that we have are not always necessary. The lessons from it aren't always necessary just for us. Sometimes we have to have that to experience the love, or to experience other people, you know, having love. And I can't give you the answers to that. I wish I could. I really wish I could. And, you know, I've often sat here and thought, why, you know, is there really such a thing as a God? I do believe it, that there is. But, you know, with all the things that are going on in the world, it makes you doubt it, you know. When certain people or certain things happen in the world that is so bad, you think, well, can't they just, you know, click the fingers and it's all gone? Why do we need to go through?
There's this idea that runs through certain factions of ufology and the experience of thing, where they seem to think that the ETs are going to come and save us from ourselves and things get
They're
bad.
not.
Well, they're not. Because, you know, what about all the people in the Middle East and all the people in Japan and all the people who've all been carpet bombed, all the Vietnamese, all those people?
Yep.
You know, how bad does it have to get? It's only, this is the white supremacy thing angle to it, isn't it? Where, you know, it's because nothing ever happens where we are, so we don't see it happening. We don't. If we were in Syria, yeah, we would be saying, when are they coming? When are they going to save us? How bad do things have to get? It's just because it's not happening right here. We're not being bombed, you know. So I don't believe that ET are coming to save us from ourselves. You know, I
don't believe they're coming to save us. I think we've got to save ourselves. But I mean, I feel that they can teach us lessons to do that. But I don't believe that they're the messiahs of the be all and end all, you know. I mean, there's lots of people that's had experiences like me, and I do feel that when my time comes to leave this earth, I'll probably go back to that source of where I come from, whether it's the Pleiades, whether it's wherever, because nobody, I believe, is from the earth. We're all here at different levels, and we're all here for different lessons. It doesn't make my experience any more special than yours or anybody else's. It's just at whatever level that you are at that time in your life, gives you the lessons that you need to learn. I don't believe at all that they're coming to save us and there's going to be this great big spaceship come and lift everybody off and we're going to live in paradise. I think we've got to create paradise, and I think it's up to humanity to do this. And while ever the things go on, like what goes on in Afghanistan and the vaccine and that, I think, you know, we're up against a big struggle really, because the majority of people don't want to know. They don't really want to do their bit. They want to believe that they're going to be saved and they can act like whatever they want because they're going to be saved. And that's the...
If they're going to be saved, they don't have to do anything. Just
no, exactly. It's all so simple. But a lot of people believe that and they think, oh, well, I can be a real so-and-so in this life because I'm going to be saved at the end of it. But in the end of it, it's not about that at all. It's about you're here. This is the university of life. That's what I believe. The earth is the university of life. We've come here to learn.
Well, I look at the planet now. When people say, mention worldview, my worldview is like I'm out in space and I'm looking at the sun hurtling forward and all of the planets are whipping around it and we're one of them. And we're like, wee around it. Crazy rate of knots. That's where we live. Yeah? Out in this massive, vast blackness with all this other stuff in it, like literally everything is in space. So, including us. And, people don't even, now, too busy bothered arguing or oppressing or, judging and all this crap that people do, telling each other how we ought to live, etc., etc. And I'm just like, what are y'all doing? Why are you even arguing about E.T., whether it's real or not, when if you write down the circumstances of our existence and you put it to somebody, you'd go, no, that's impossible. Nothing could live under them conditions, yet here we are. What are we? Never mind what are aliens, what are we? I wish people would wake up. Hello, we are in space.
If you were an alien, answer me this. If you were an alien and you saw this planet, you'd run a mile. You'd run a mile. You'd think, I don't want to be there.
I wouldn't run a mile. I would observe from a safe distance, and I would not go anywhere near, the White House, or anywhere where there's any government, any politicians, any of the monsters that are ruining this planet. I wouldn't go anywhere near them. I would probably actually deal with the population and be subversive in that way, rather than take me to your leader kind of stuff. I would be fascinated, because we are fascinated. Everything about life on this planet is utterly fascinating. Anybody who thinks it's unremarkable is actually unremarkable. The world and everything in it is just unbelievable.
Can I take this down a different route? A lot of people are saying that the people that rule this planet, and I'm talking about the secret governments and things like that, all
demonocracy.
They all basically worship Satanism. Now, oh my God! Now, what are your views on that? I mean, I'm talking about to Laura as well.
Idea. Satan's just an idea, and Satan actually isn't just one figure. Satan is legion, which is many, which is all. Yeah, and I actually was watching this guy today in this video, and he was saying actually all demons are herbivores because they have horns to protect themselves, and things with forward-facing eyes and teeth and all the rest of it, like us, we're all the predators. So actually demons are probably herbivores because they've always got these cloven hoofs and horns like goats and sheep and things, which I thought was hysterical. But actually, I think that a lot of it, when people all believe a certain thing, then that thing becomes a reality because it is a collective idea. It's a collective. The mental and emotional energy that people produce is actually real. It's physical, it's actually real. So all these things are thought forms, and they're a real thing because people have made it. But they've got nothing to do with the church. They've got nothing to do with religion. No, they just are. They are. And the church tried to make sense of things and tried to dominate it as it tries to dominate everything. And I think, they were in existence, whatever they are, way before religion.
Yeah, I just wonder if there's some sort of a big... I keep hearing that there's a big sort of... war of good and evil going on.
Basically, what you're talking about is witchcraft, yeah? And you're talking about magic, and you're talking about manipulating energy. And you've got good people, you've got bad people. So the good people are going to create good things, and the bad people are going to create and manifest bad things. So and even demons, when you look at their hierarchy, it's exactly the same as the hierarchy of the angels. And I can't honestly tell you the difference between the demons and the angels, because not all angels are good. You've got war, death, famine, all the rest of it. Yeah, they're not good. They don't care about human feelings and things like that. They're not answering prayers. The thought forms of the angels that people have created are answering the prayers. But when you're talking about these actual entities, I think they're as real as death. And they're not so different. So you've got benevolent, or they're not actually evil demons, and you've got the ones that are like they feast on the misery and death, So that's just my take. Yeah. What do you think, Laura?
I'm divided. I believe that there's an opposite, positive and a negative, and I don't necessarily always think that the negative is bad. I think that when we say something's bad and something, I think that's a man-made conditioning with a lot of things. There's a positive and a negative. There is bad and there is good, but to what extent? I mean, I believe in angels and I work with the archangels, and not, like you say, not all of them were good. I mean, not all of them were bad. And in every realm of this galaxy, whether it's, on the Pleiades or wherever, that there's got to be a positive and a negative, because that's the way that nature, or life is really. And I mean, even though, a lot of people go on about being Pleiadian or being whatever, if you look back in the history of the 344,000 years, I think it is, when the Pleiadians first came to this world, they weren't all good. It's only through progress and ascension of their own vibrationary understanding that they have come to be at the level that they are now.
Evolving.
So they've evolved. And my understanding of why they're here, not just Pleiadians, but Orions and, a lot of others, is they've been through what this Earth is going through, and they want to help us to evolve. But at the same time, we've got free will, and we're the only planet, from my understanding, that has free will, and therefore, because we've got free will, we can make a muckers of it, or we can make it as paradise. And a lot of that people create is through fear. It's not necessarily bad, it's through fear. And people over centuries have, in certain parts of the world, and even in certain families, have come to have a minimal belief system, because they've been told that that's how it has to be, and that's how how it should be, because that's the right way. And I think that goes over onto a lot of things that we do in our lives. Beliefs come into a lot of things of how we act, what we say, what we feel, and things. But I think that there's got to be, there's always going to be a positive and negative, a good or a bad. To what extent that is taken, or that is, that person or that incident is, depends on, what that person's like. But I don't feel that, which we do, and I do myself, that we have the right to judge. It's up to that person to learn from that, and hopefully try and put that right. But I don't think it's just for one person. I think it's got to be a planetary shift of vibration, because one person on their own, even though in their little world it's enough, it's not enough for the planet. And that's what's happening now. Everybody's living in fear, because that's what the governments want, because they know that if people don't live in fear, they will have no control over people. And that's what it's really all about, because fear is a form of control. And fear's not good.
It keeps your energy, doesn't it? It keeps you you don't move when you're scared, you freeze. So you're not going to progress through life if you're always in a state of high anxiety.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, I was brought up in a Catholic church with Italian mother. I mean, God, what more fearful can you get? I mean, I remember when I was 19, falling pregnant, my mum didn't take me to the doctor, she took me to the priest.
Oh my God.
She made me feel like I was the dirtiest thing on earth, and that's fear. That's fear on her part as well.
Yeah.
Now I can understand that, where I am in my life and what I've experienced. I can forgive her and I can understand that, but there's still people live like that.
Do.
Well, to put a positive aspect on it, I mean, when we all die, we're all supposed to go to a place that's absolutely perfect. Would you agree with that?
We're already there, David.
Well,
we're already spirit, so we exist in spirit now. It's consciousness.
Yeah, but I mean,
we are consciousness, so we're there and we're here. So when we die, we're already there.
Yeah,
No, I don't agree. I don't agree with that. I think when we die, I think we evolve because we're able to move out of a physical thinking and a physical body and go back to being...
What about our energetic, emotional, spiritual bodies? That's real. That's just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's there. That's what I'm talking about. That's already there. That's where it exists. That's what it is. It's consciousness. Consciousness is another realm. And we are consciousness. So we're here and we are there at the same time. And we will always be a part of consciousness.
That's true, but because we're in a physical state, we're not always able to be in that consciousness.
We don't even have to be aware that we're there, but we are there because we are conscious.
There's different levels from what I understand.
Yeah, totally. But what I'm saying is we are a vehicle for the soul. So the soul exists elsewhere as well. It's not contained here. We are in it. We're in it. It's around us. It moves through us. You know, we're not like a pot with a thing in it.
No.
So that's what I mean. So that thing that's all around us, that's still us, our higher selves, or whatever you want to refer to it as, that's in the realm that it exists in, and it on this physical thing that we're walking about in, our little meat machine. You know, when that dies, you don't have to get out of it. You're already where you are. You know what I mean?
I can see that. I can agree with that.
It's just how I picture things, anyway, in my mind.
It's like when we sleep, for instance, we may well visit the other realm quite often.
Yeah. Out of body experiences. I don't even know how many of those I've had. Ridiculous amount.
Which I imagine we all do it, but I mean, I don't remember any of mine, but I imagine some people can actually control them and know, where they've been. I mean, I've had some strange dreams in the past. I think it seems so real, and it makes you wonder sometimes if it's like an alternate reality.
Well, how I know when it's real is that when we normally dream, we dream in black and white. But when it's a spiritual experience, for me anyway, I can't say this for everybody, but for myself anyway, when it's more spiritual and it's what I'm meant to remember and it's real for me, it's colour. I see it in colour. But I've always been able to change my dreams from a very young girl. If I've ever been in a dream and I've not liked it, I've changed it to something, good. I've always been able to change that, and most people can do that, but they've not got the understanding of how, because even when you're asleep, your conscious mind, your conscious energy is still in control.
Yeah.
And things. But going back to the walk-in situation, one of the things that I did find when we had the walk-in situation, that a man contacted me from England because of this walk-in organisation in America. They did try to put people in touch with people in their area. I always remember him, and he rung me up one day and he said his name was Eric, and he wasn't on a spiritual understanding, that's all I can say. And he said he kept getting strange phone calls about, because of what had happened. He'd been on the ships and everything, and he said he was really scared. Anyway, one particular day, I got a phone call from him, and he was quite hysterical. He'd had a walk-in experience not long after his wife had died, and because it was a traumatic experience, emotional, his family had put it down to him having a breakdown, but he knew that it wasn't a breakdown. Anyway, he rung me, and we used to have conversations, and one particular day he rung me and he said, "Laura, I'm really, really scared." He said, "I think I'm going to be killed." And I said, "Why? What makes you think that?" He said, "I've just got this feeling that I'm going to be taken out." And he said, "I've spoken to people," and he said, "I don't think they like what I say." He said, "I think they think that I'm going crackers. And he said, I want you to, and he gave me a phone number, a different phone number. And he said, this is my personal phone number. He said, can you do me a favour? Can you ring this phone number if you don't hear from me in 2 weeks' time? So I said, yeah, of course I can. So I rung the phone number, and at the first time I tried it, I didn't get an answer. And the second time I tried it, a woman rung, and I asked for him by name. And she said, oh, I think you've got the wrong number, love. She said, nobody's ever lived here of that name. So I said to her, is this the address? I gave her the address and everything. And she said, yeah, that's the address and everything. And never heard from him again. So I presume he was taken out, and he was a walk-in, but he'd not had lots of spiritual experiences. He'd had the opposite to what I'd had, and like he wasn't a very happy person because of what he'd experienced. But his family had put it down to being crazy because his wife had died, you see, previously. But not all walk-ins that come here are happy, and although they come here with a mission, not all of them complete what they come to do, because obviously life gets in the way and different situations, and when that happens, it's been known there are a lot of people that have had these experiences that can't continue on the path that they've come to do, often commit suicide, because they know that they've got this knowing inside of them that they know that there's something that they've got to complete before they return home, as they say. A lot of them also feel homesick, and, you know, they just can't settle on this planet because of, like you say, Sasha, how people treat each other. Most of them are so sensitive that they can't deal with the upset.
Yeah. I mean, we look around, and I look at the world and the way that people behave and treat each other, and war and all this racism and all these things.
I know.
And I think, I'm on the wrong planet.
Yeah.
How did I get here? What is all this hate? Why do people think that skin colour matters? Why are things like this? And why is everybody depressed? I don't think there's probably a person on this planet in a Western world or wherever actually who's not got any mental health issues or sadness or that vein of like just sadness that exists in all of us.
Well, it's like I was saying, I mean, most of that is caused by our governments. They cause all the divisions, don't they? They're constantly putting divisions in between people. It's like the divide and conquer thing. It used to be just like men against women and white against black. But I mean, you've got so many divisions now, it's ridiculous. And they seem to be doing it all the time.
All of them are generated. But it's terrible because kids, when they're born, they're not racist. They don't have all this prejudice. They don't have all this greed.
But you see, people in general have become so that they see it all the time now that it's just a natural thing. They don't actually take much notice of it, especially if it doesn't affect their little world every day. We've become so, even when you watch a television program, it's full of violence, it's full of hatred, and that's entertainment, for us on this planet, how we watch things. And people have come so obscure that if they hear on the news now that somebody's been murdered or they see on the paper, they don't bat an eyelid, they don't feel it anymore because it's such a common occurrence now, and people are programmed to accept that as normal. I mean, you see on the news at the moment for Afghanistan, all these people are collecting for Afghanistan, which is fine and it's good, but while it's people on the doorstep that's hungry or starving or homeless, they don't bat an eyelid. They don't. And that's my only thing, that we need to be more loving and more caring to the people around us. Yeah. And then it will, you know, sort of escalate, because our kids they follow by example. And I've seen it in schools. I used to be a teacher, a nursery teacher, and I've seen it in schools. And I've seen that, you know, how children are with each other, and it's because they've copied the parents, and the teachers are bland to it because they see it all the time.
Yeah.
And I think when it becomes like that, I think survival mode kicks in, because, you know, it's a survival flinch or flin, isn't it, really?
I do think that most people are living in survival mode rather than thriving.
Oh, definitely.
I think that's just the way
mental illness has never been so big.
Yeah.
And I mean, just in Burnley, every week there's a bridge in Burnley. Somebody has killed themselves off this bridge.
Yeah.
You know, or jumped off of it. And people just say, oh, I'm late home for work today because somebody else jumped. No, you know, 5 years ago that would have been a catastrophe.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, we've got the number one cause of death in men under 50 is suicide at the moment. And, you know, you can look at our leaders and say, why is this happening?
But you see, people are scared, Sasha, and what they don't realise, that we put the government in power, the people who vote, and they don't realise that they're meant to be working for us, not the other way. And
I was out of the window a long time ago.
And there's actually more of us that the government should be the ones that fear, in fear, not us. Not that I agree with anybody living in fear. But
we can't get into this, but yeah, I don't even believe in the central government. I think it should be abolished.
But I think that if people realised what power they have as a human being, and as a collective, you know, in a group of people, I think they wouldn't need to worry about the governments all over the world, because we've all got that power, we've all got that, you know, strength within us, if we only just realised how powerful we really are, because we're all gods in the making. We've all got that, you know, we're all made in that image. We've all got that. Nobody's any more powerful than anybody else, but as a collective, and, you know, put that together, we can work wonders. They've found this out. I mean, when they did, you know, the harmonic convergence several years ago, we went to that. There were people coming together and meditating on a global, scale.
Yeah.
And there were people having crystals and crystal rings and diamond rings cracking on the fingers with the power and the energy. Wow. It was just, but people don't believe that they've got that energy and that power within them. If they could only realise what power we actually have as an individual and put that together as a collective. We don't need to be living like we live, but it's making people wake up to that, because they're all so, brainwashed into something.
And that's done by purpose. That's done on purpose, isn't it?
Most people are just exhausted and they haven't got the energy.
Yeah.
Well, that's another point.
Revolt.
People are made to work so long that they're so shattered now in life. Life is not a pleasure to live for a lot of people. It's a troll really, because they work till the day they die. A lot of people.
Yeah.
And like you say, they haven't got, and that's the government's plan. They want people to do that, so they don't fight. But people need to be, I think the lesson that we've got to learn is to stand together and be united regardless of race, colour, creed, and realise what power we've got and how much we can change. Until people do that, things will just carry on as they are, because things will only work in this world what we allow.
Do you feel that people may, I don't know quite how to approach this, but many of us are brought together from the spiritual side to actually stand up against this tyranny? Do you see what I'm saying? You're actually purposely brought together, you know.
Oh, definitely. I never wanted to go to New Zealand to live. I stuck my foot down. But when I got there, I had a purpose. I had to go to New Zealand for 10 years. It wasn't for me. It was to take the light to other people. And I actually took the light to women over there because women were not empowered. They might have been empowered in a business situation, but as a woman in their own domestic situation, a lot of them, it's very male orientated. And I found out only when I come back. I never could understand what my purpose was. And I had a lot to do with the Maori, and the Maori women are more in control than the Western women, funnily enough. And they said that that's what I'd gone over there for, was to help women wake up and realise that they don't have to live like they did 50 years ago. Even though in business they might have been, and I weren't the only one. By going over there, I met with a lot of spiritual people that I would never have met. And it weren't just me that did that. It was as a collective that we got together and were able to do that as a team, because every single one of us brought something to that enable for it to work, if you understand what I mean. There was nobody any more special. I mean, if there's 3 people on this thing got together tonight and decided, oh, let's do that, we've all bringing something different. And without those 3 different things, that collective wouldn't work as it should, because all those 3 things are brought together at that time to achieve something at that time. That's what I believe. And that's why when you get groups of people and something happens that maybe one of them falls out and leaves, it falls apart, because in order for that to work, it's got to have every piece. It's a bit like a jigsaw. You can do a jigsaw, but at the end of it, if there's one piece missing, it's not complete.
No, I would agree with just about everything there. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I realised that when I went there, I didn't want to go. Michael wanted to go, but I didn't. I realised that I was put there by spirit to do what I had to do. And when I came home, which my mum was the catalyst that I came home for, but I knew in my heart at that time that my work was finished. I said to Michael, my work's finished here, I need to go back home now. And I knew that I had done, but I planted the seed in quite a lot of people's, that they can then plant the seed in. It's never finished, but it needs a beginning and an end, and maybe
domino, isn't it? It's like a domino effect.
Yeah, definitely. You know, I mean, I could have stayed there and continued, but I wouldn't have got personal growth from it. And one of the main things that we've come here for is personal growth.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, is to grow, whether that's good or bad. If you do something good, that's fine. If you do something bad that has a bad effect on you, you won't do it again. You learn from it. If you fall out of a tree and break your arm, you're not going to go up that tree tomorrow and do the same, are you? You know? And that's what it's all about. So
I would.
But my son did 3 times in a month. But
just have to do things over and over and over again to make sure, you know.
But most people wouldn't, and that's what it's about. It's all about learning it. You know, when they say that, you know, you go to, this is the university of learning. This is where we learn the most. And if you look back, everybody looks back on their lives. You learn the most when things are hardest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, you don't remember well, you do remember, but you don't remember the good things like you do the bad things, as we choose to call them.
Yeah.
You know. And there's so many different things on this earth. There's lots of ETs walking around as humans that people would never yet know. There's walk-ins. There's everything.
I say that ET that I saw that was looking like a little girl looked like a proper little girl until it smiled.
Exactly.
And, I thought it was a little girl, and I went to grab it to, you know, drag it with me, and so it looked real.
And it's a question of learning as well to get on with different people, and regardless of how different they may be. I think that a lot of what is happening now, because I don't think that anything that we do in life is new. Technology is not even new, because it's all cyclic, isn't it? I mean, like, if you look back in history, as far back as Atlantis, they had technology, they had aeroplanes, they had things, you know, it's just...
that we're the only technologically advanced race that's ever existed on the planet, and I think that we're probably not even as advanced as we have been in the past.
No, we're quite opposite. You know, we've gone backwards, and I think that, you know, we're here to learn and to grow, and because of you know, we've already done this, we've already had it, but we need, you know, we need to learn second time around. We're getting another chance, and I think that even though this planet will evolve, and people will probably leave this planet either through death or whatever, and probably have a reincarnation on another planet or go back to the source where they come from, I still think that they'll go through another cycle again, because they say that the cycle of the earth takes 2,000 years, you know, and sort of they laugh and say, if you don't get it this time, you've got 2,000 years to wait, so you've got to make it right. But I mean, nothing's new. We've just got to learn and evolve from it, and learn to be with each other. And, you know, so, you know, people don't like anything different. They don't like change in general. And this is why a lot of people who've probably had far greater experiences than me don't come forward. But now things are changing, and the younger people are coming forward with these things because they won't accept the rubbish that we've accepted and we didn't accept what our parents accepted. So in some way there is growth there, but, you know, it's not fast enough in order to make positive changes that are permanent.
Do you see positive things happening?
I do feel that there's always the beginning and then always an end, and that not just in each day. And I do feel that with the amount of people that are waking up now, I do feel that there will be positive changes. Now, how long and when, whether that'll be in my lifetime, my children's lifetime, I don't know. Because, you know, spirit have a habit of saying, oh, it's not long, but there's no time in spirit. And what's not long for them might be years for us, you know, because we've got a time factor, and you know, we work by clocks and things. So therefore, you know, when we think somebody's told us or something's not long, we expect it to be like next week, don't we, you know, because there's no time factor in spirit. Not long might be 5 years, it might be next week.
So we've still got to live through hell then?
Well, I believe this is hell. I don't believe that we go to hell. I believe that we're in it already. Exactly, and things. But they always say, I don't know how true it is, what what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And I think that with a lot of people that I've met on the spiritual sort of lifestyle, I do feel that even though some of them might have had, different negative experiences through the journey in their life, I do think that the majority of them are very strong people, and they know a lot of them know where they're going and what they want, but not just for themselves, they want it for the family. And even by making little changes within yourself, it's making a difference, because, if you can make changes within yourself and make it better for you and make your health a bit better, you can help others. But if you can't do that, you can't help others, and you've got to love yourself before you can, for others to love you. And I think that that's what's missing. A lot of people are led to believe that they're not worthy of being loved, and everybody is. I don't mean just passionate love. I mean love within yourself, liking yourself. Yeah, sure. And I mean, I've spent the last few months working on me. Yesterday I went for allergy tests. I was really shocked at what, but I know that nobody else can do it for me. If I want to live a better life for me, I've got to do these things if I want to follow my spiritual journey, because I can't do that if I'm ill.
Yeah, that's true. Well,
and my kids follow on from that, because they see you as an example. They might not follow my journey, but they look at my strengths, and your kids will look at your strengths and say, oh, my dad had the strength to do this, or my mum had the strength to do that, and it encourages them. And so that's where it continues, and it goes on and on.
Well, I mean, we're coming towards the end of the show now. We can't sort of end without talking a little bit about Probe, which you mentioned earlier, which sadly came to an end just before the world went crazy anyway, which was strange in itself, wasn't it?
Yeah, Probe was the most wonderful thing that ever happened to me, apart from my experiences, and it was from Probe that I learnt really what was going on with me. Michael and I were at Probe from the beginning, when Probe first started, because originally Sam and Jean used to be part of Lapis, and they left Lapis because they wanted to work on a more spiritual level, and Lapis at that time was only very interested in the nuts and bolts of UFO and abductions and things, and they wanted more. So they started Probe, and they started it, and they asked me and Michael if we'd join them and help them. And basically I was just on the door with Jean, and Michael was doing the electrics and things for Sam. And we did that right up to going to New Zealand, and then obviously other people took over. I felt that it was Probe was a university within itself. It became like a family, really. But the thing that let it down was that there wasn't enough new information and enough people coming forward with new experiences and things to speak about. And what made it more difficult was today a lot of people with technology, they can see a lot of this on Skype, on Sky TV, on the internet, and so numbers dwindled, and without the numbers we couldn't keep going because we didn't have the money. But it was an icon within itself. Sam did it for 30 odd years. Jean helped him, and because we were in it from the beginning, when Sam's son left him in a bit of a mess, and he wasn't going to do it he asked me and Michael if we'd come back in and help him to try and keep it going a bit longer, which we did. But sadly, people just weren't coming, and because most of the decisions that were made by Sam, and you know Sam, he's very soft, isn't he, Sash?
Very.
And so he would like have his old buddies come back, but it weren't new stuff. It weren't new stuff.
I think he got manipulated quite a lot towards the end as well, don't you?
He did, yeah, he did. I tried not to.
People were really taking advantage of him.
Yeah.
And saying that they cared about him, but all they were doing was like staring.
It's still going on with his sons, but I'll keep out of it now.
Yeah, but I'm not even on about his. I'm talking about stuff, but, you know, I mean.
Yeah. And then there were other people that took advantage, that wanted, you know, to speak, and they wanted to have everything for nothing, and Sam being Sam, you know, oh yeah. And when I took over everything, I was supposed to be taking over with 5 other people, and it ended up being just me. It got too much for me, and there was so much backstabbing. But originally, when it first began, you know, it was, you know, a good thing within itself. There's still people that, you know, I keep in touch with, and the people that I made good friends with, you know, they're like a family. It's nice to see those people, and it's nice to be in touch with them. And it served its purpose. It opened its eyes. It awakened people that wouldn't have been awakened, really, and allowed them to go on and, you know, further get information on what happened to them, and made them. It was a doorway, really, for them.
I had the most mental paranormal experience in that building that changed my life forever, and I wasn't the only person who witnessed it, because Vitaly saw it as well. And it was just incredible. That was the most insane day ever, because Jason was there. Some stuff was going on with Jean, Jason, this guy, and Sam, and then Jean somehow ended up like she'd been shoved in a stomach and had flown backwards. She went flying across, well, not right across the room, but she went flying a good 4 feet from a stud. What the hell happened to her, nobody knows. So, yeah, it was a crazy day.
It was good while it lasted, and I mean, for something to last 34 years today, in this day and age, is good going.
Yeah, I was just about to ask you how many years. It was 34 years, was it? Wow.
Yeah, 34 years. Sam's 93, 94 now. He couldn't. He misses it. Yeah. And I'll be very honest. I don't miss all the bullshit that it came with it. I don't. And all the hassles. But I miss getting together with like-minded people. And there was some talk, we were having some talk not long ago about maybe having a reunion. And we did think about something in October. But I'm a bit wary of putting something like that on the probe site, because I don't want to attract too many, and I don't want to attract too many that I don't want to be there. You know what I mean? I just want to be able to ask the people, why don't we meet, have a drink, have a laugh, and go home. I don't want to start organising hotel. I don't want to. It's just a question of one day getting together, a few people having a laugh, going home, basically.
Everybody sorts themselves out.
And everybody sorts themselves out, yeah, and that. And we were thinking about it.
What you could do is have a Facebook page, start the secret probe conference or something, and just invite people you want on it.
Yeah, I suppose so. But it's not the same as some people haven't got Facebook. And,
well, yeah.
You know, we met
there is that.
a couple. we met a couple of people that, you know, Lynn and Terry and Mike, they're lovely people, been going forever to probe. And we went up, we went to their house and we had a lovely evening, and we've been friends from when probe started. And they'd like to get together and have a chat, and you know, they've got information that they've learnt since probe, and it's nice to share that information. It's not just about, you know, and be together and share, because you're in that energy then, you know, and I think that that's what made probe. Sam never wanted it to be a big, you know, commercial thing, and that was always the argument with other people. He wanted to keep it in Jean's memory, how we'd started it with Jean, because that's what he promised her when she was dying, that he'd keep it going, but he'd keep it going how they created it, you know. And because I'd been in it from the beginning, that's why he wanted me in, because he knew how it worked for Jean, because I worked with her. He didn't want it to be some big. I mean, he could have taken it that way if he'd have really wanted to, but Sam was just happy to see the people and get the speakers and have it. But apart from it, you know, people taking advantage and finances, it got too expensive. Some of these places that you had the conference and stuff, they got greedy. You know, it started off at £200, you know, 3 or 4 years ago, and now they're wanting nearly 1,000 for the same venue.
Yeah.
Wow. You know, we just weren't getting bums on seats to make that money really. But great adventures, I learned great knowledge from that. When I had the walking experience, one of the people that did come to probe was a lady called Dia Martin. She used to work for the American military, and she used to be able to tell the government when people were going to have a breakdown after they'd been to Vietnam and places like that through their auras. And I had a reading with her, and Mark had a reading, and when I walked in, she went, "Oh my God, a walk-in." She said, "You've got 2 auras." Well, that was confirmation for me, because, you know, somebody could have turned around and said, "You're a walk-in, you're this, you're that, I feel it." But when I got confirmation like that, that was proof that it wasn't me, because she'd never met me in her life. She didn't know who I was and whatever. And the tape didn't work for her. Brand new tape wouldn't work. Nothing would. She'd have never had this before. She said, "Can't you come out and come back in again, see if my tape works?" She just said, I've never seen this. She said, "But I've never seen anybody with 2 auras. Never." She said, "You've got 2 auras," and she said, "They're intertwined, and that's telling me that you're walking and you're not of this earth." So that was the proof for me. And to meet people like that, I learned a lot about myself, which I would have been kept in the dark spiritually, because where else did you go? There were nowhere else before probe, really. There weren't. You know, I think most people went to probe. I mean, other things have come along since and more advanced, but probe was the kindergarten, really, of it all. That's all I can say.
That's why I didn't realise it had been going for that many years. I thought it was around about 20, because I made it to only about 3 of them, believe it or not, because it was quite a trot for me to come up there. But
oh yeah, I mean, it'd be nice if something else happened again, but I think that today, if it happened, I think we'd have to be more choosy of who, you know. Yeah. Everybody, Sam was everybody's friend, you know what I mean? Yeah. You know, he rings me up every day, because I'm the only one at probe now that really keeps in touch with him. And he don't see his sons much, so as Sacha knows, I speak to him most days. He rang me up at 6 o'clock today, and I said, "I can't talk now, and I'm making tea. I'll ring you tomorrow." And, you know,
I haven't rung him for a while.
He's a really lonely old man, and now, you know, and it's sad to think that all the people that he knew in probe, you know, what But it's hard to get hold of him because I don't know what's happened to his phone. But it tells you that it's not accepting calls and God knows what. So I wait for him to ring me, so I've got to either put up with him ringing me at 8 o'clock or 6 o'clock in the morning. But it's been nice, to be able to have I don't regret going to probe. I really don't, even though there were a lot of hiccups and things throughout the years. It made my life. It became my life, really. And I look at people that haven't got this in their lives, and I think how sad, how boring their lives are.
Yeah, there was certainly some exciting times. I know that for the little bits I was involved in it, but
not just the probe, but anybody who's on this path, they've got a lovely life, But when you look at the average man in the street, they've got nothing, and that's why they're so. I wouldn't want that. I wouldn't want that in my life. I wouldn't go back to that.
Yeah, so, I think we ought to.
You know what? To say like all the stuff that's happened and all the fear I've had and all the trauma, etc. I don't think I'd change it. I won't go back to being deluded and blind to it all. I wouldn't.
But you couldn't, Sasha, because even though you've gone through all that, that's who you are now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It makes up who you are, and that's who you are. And you can't change who you are. And when you have these experiences, whether it's positive or whether it's negative, is besides the sides. It changes your life. And when I've been in groups with women, and I've been in groups with other people, and you hear them, and I sit there and I think, after what's happened to me and the people that I've met at probe and along the way, I think, oh, what a sad life. What am I doing here? This is boring me to tears. It doesn't help. There's a shift that happens when you go on this path, and I can't explain what it is, but there is a shift. Regardless of how little or whatever, whether that shift is from your own experiences or learning from others, once you've got into that, you can't go back. It's like they've got you now, and that's it. Yeah. And you can't change who you are, because you are what you experience in life.
That's true. Yeah, it's very true.
I think we ought to explain for our international listeners, whoever are listening. Probe was a conference that happened twice a year, didn't it?
Yes.
And it was stationed. It was in Blackpool in the UK.
And then it went on to St Anne's.
Yeah, just so you know where we're talking about, and what we're talking about.
It originally started as a UFO conference, but at the end of the day, it became everything paranormal.
Yeah.
Whatever people wanted to talk about, whether
it became a paranormal event in its own right.
It did, with some of the people that were there.
Yeah.
The things that went on, yeah.
Yeah, but it was something that, I even though it was hard work, I did look forward to it. I just didn't want the bull anymore, and my health went down, and I could see that if we'd have tried to keep it up, it would have cost a lot of money for Sam and myself, which we didn't have. And it was just, it had had its day. It just had its day. And it's just time to move on now.
Yeah, so, it's like I said at the beginning, it's very strange that it would have come to a halt anyway with everything, because nobody could go anywhere. So it's kind of strange that it came to a natural halt, didn't it, before that?
Well, it actually did me a favour, because at that time, and Sasha will tell you, I wanted to finish because it was such a strain, and there was a lot of other things going on in my private life at the time as well. And I couldn't, and when I suggested that I wanted to finish and nobody wanted to take it on, and Sam was very fussy about who we wanted to trust after what had happened in the past, I got abuse from everything and everywhere from all directions, but nobody wanted to take it on. And I kept thinking, I really need to finish this. I've got other things in my life I need to do now. I couldn't find any excuse how to finish it. But then when they came and they said with the lockdown, I thought there is a God, because it actually did me a favour. It was a blessing in disguise for me.
Yeah.
At that time, you know. But it couldn't have continued without everybody being out of pocket, and I didn't want that for Sam. So, you know, or myself.
Sure.
But I mean, I do feel that I wish there was something that I could do to continue it, to find, you know, like-minded people, not necessarily speakers, but, you know, to get together, because we live in an area in Burnley in Lancashire, if people don't know, and it's not very spiritual. It's a very low economic area. People aren't interested in a lot of this stuff because, well, they're just worried about life in general. There's nobody for Michael and that, because Michael's a healer, and there's nobody here that we can connect with now anymore since Probe finished, which is a bit sad, really.
Are there no spiritualist churches around?
They are.
Well, you know, okay, I heard a groan in the background there. What's that?
Again, spiritualist churches are a good a door opening for people, and they do a lot of good for people who have had a loss and they're searching. But I feel, and I don't mean this in an egotistical way, but I feel for people like myself and Michael and yourselves, I think it's beyond that now. I think we need to find something that takes us further.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
We know that. We know what happens in spiritualist churches. They do a good thing, but they don't do what we do.
It's like an introduction course, isn't it?
Yeah, and I've worked in spiritualist churches in the past, even local, and obviously my speciality is ETs and trance and things, and they don't like what I do because it's not within their rules and regulations. I mean, I remember going to Clitheroe Spiritualist Church and talking about a guide to somebody and saying, I've got your guide. That's all I said. And I gave them this message. And at the end of the service, the guy came up to me and he was in tears. And he went, thank you. I've been waiting for that message for years. And I said, well, as long as it's given you some hope, I'm glad. And I went and had my cup of tea like you do in the church. And this woman from the SNU came up and she says, I don't think you'll be working in our churches again. And I said, why is that? She said, we don't work with guides. We don't believe in guides. It's only about life after death.
Really? That's the same thing, though.
Yeah. This is the problem with them. They're so strict. They've got so many rules. And in the end, all they can do is, like, pass on the odd message to somebody who's just lost someone. Or the times I've been, they're all sat around, and it's usually all old ladies who tell me they can't wait to go home, which is basically they're saying, I cannot wait to die. And then usually you've got a few characters who will always be upfront and, not necessarily giving out messages, but here's a flower from spirit, It's just, to me, it's pointless, unless you're an old lady or somebody who's just lost someone.
And I just said, well, if that's how you feel, I said, I don't want to come back. I said, I want to be able to give people. I said, to me, she says, but we don't talk about guides. We don't have guides in the spiritual church. And I said, but they are teachers. And I said, Jesus was a guide. He was one of the most, spiritual teachers or guides you could ever have. So you don't believe in Jesus? And she didn't answer me because there's no cross up in the spiritualist church or anything like that. And I said, if you don't believe it, if that's how you are, I said, I don't want to come back. I said, the important thing to me is to be able to give a message and somebody find comfort. And I said, that man, he came to me crying, thanked me. I said, to me, I'm not bothered about what you think. I know that what I did gave him comfort, and that's all that matters.
Yeah.
And if he'd waited for years, that was meant to happen.
That was meant to happen, and I said, I'm not bothered about any committee. I'm not bothered about pleasing any committee. I'm more concerned about what I give is right and it gives comfort. That's all I'm bothered about.
Yeah.
And I've never been back.
That's right.
No, I don't go anymore either.
Because of that reason. And it's sad, really, because originally when the spiritualist churches started, they were a good thing, but like everything else, they've become very political. They've become like other churches. They've got rules. They've got, when they first started, they were amazing. But, today, people's got beyond that. Most people know that, there is life after death, and even if they don't ever go to a church, there's enough of it on the cinemas, on the TV or whatever, to know that.
That's right.
Well, I tell you what, they all accepted me, but I knew that if I told them about my ET experiences,
you'd have been excommunicated.
I would have been out of that door in a second.
Out on your ear.
So I couldn't be
You'd have been the bonfire waiting for you, though.
How on earth could I possibly ever grow in a situation where half of me would be rejected, and so I was hiding it.
So I don't go. I'm just my own boss now. I do my own thing. That what was good about Probe. I did my own thing, and I helped people and whatever. And I met all you lovely people. I wouldn't be on this radio program today if it weren't for Probe and meeting David and meeting you, Sasha. And things. So there were some negatives, but there were a lot of positives. Most of the people that I met, I've kept as good friends, and I know that I can ring those people up any time, and they can ring me, and we don't see each other every day or every week or even every month, but the bond is there, with the right people.
That's right. That one day we'll probably all run into each other again somewhere or other. If it's not in this life, in the next life.
Exactly. And even if you just meet somebody again for 5 minutes, you've made the connection. Like on here, I haven't seen you for years, but I know you and things. But I've made this connection, through here. Who's to say what this brings? Who's to say?
Yeah, we've made that connection closer now, haven't we? So. Yeah,
that's what spirit want, and I think that these things are brought to us. I think that your life is planned to a degree that you're meant to meet different people and you're meant to do certain things. And if you don't do it first time round, then the situation comes up again in your life where it happens. And that I can do numerous situations of that, in my life. But there's people that you meet and you like, and there's people that you meet that you don't like.
Yeah,
but at the end of
I think mostly you meet new friends, but you do make a few enemies along the way as well.
Oh yeah, there's always somebody that's not going to like you and things. But at the end of the day, I've come on here. I've told my part of my story. I'm not here to make anybody follow me or feel that this is what they've got to do or convert anyone. I'm just telling them my story, how I experienced it really. And if they've had experiences similar and what I've said has given them some comfort, well, brilliant.
Of course, and that's what this show's all about, Laura. And it's actually been great having you on. And you told me before that you were going to be very nervous, but I thought you performed very good, very well, doesn't she, Sasha?
Smashed it.
Well, I am. You can't see me. My hands are like holding each other.
Are you shaking? Oh, bless you.
No, I think you've been really good. I thought we'd struggle because you said you were going to be really nervous, but I think I've probably been more nervous than you.
I know Laura, so I could drag her through it.
That's why I wanted Sasha on, because I know Sasha and we make each other feel comfortable. We talk often, don't we? I've actually got to ring you, so we talk often. We talk often, and we have a bit of a moan and put the world to rights, and then we don't speak to each other for a while. But I know, and that's how it should be.
It's like me and Sasha. Sometimes we don't talk for months, do we? All of a sudden we'll have a.
It's like everyone. I mean, I know a lot of people, so if I try to keep up with everybody, No, I'd have a nervous breakdown.
I mean, I'm still waiting. So I'm still waiting for an invite to Sacha's because I promised her.
Hey, I've told you, you can come here anytime.
She wants me to do a past life regression on her because I do past life therapy.
I want to see if I can be hypnotised.
Well, that's a form of hypnotism, how I do it.
Well, we'll see. We'll see how we get on. But people have tried, but I'm just so uptight. I don't think it can happen. But we'll see.
I'm the same. I don't think I could be either.
I'll bring you a hammer.
I've got some odd memories that I was, I don't know anything about hypnosis, right? So I don't know if it's good or bad or whatever. So, I've always dismissed it, but I've dismissed it because I didn't want to remember any more of my own experiences. But, like I've been told so many times by other people, that it's helped them. So, I go, oh, don't get it. What are you going to do with more memories if you can't cope with the memories that you've got, etc.? But, something's going to happen next year where I might actually try it for the event in Wales.
I'll set you up on that.
I don't know, because I'm terrified of remembering.
I was taught a certain way in New Zealand, and there's different methods, but the way that I was taught is that you're always in control. It's nothing like stage hypnosis like you see on the TV. You're always in control. The way I was taught it and the way I do it. That if you say, right, I don't like this, I've had enough, you can come back round and you can leave that. But normally what happens is that with how I've been taught is that when you go through the death experience, you go through everything. But like most people, if they've had 50, 60 lives, a lot of the lives that they've had are very similar and actually very boring. But very often with past lives, it's repetitive. So, for example, say if you were a servant girl and you were treated badly, on an occasion you might have had 3 lives that you were a servant girl and treated badly. Not consecutively, but you may have. So like if when you come to clear that life, and because I do it with a meditation and I bring in the guides to clear any negative energies and surround you, and you've got protection all the time while it's being done. If you say you've had 4 or 5 lives that are very similar with similar bad experiences, once you clear that life that's had that experience, you clear them all. So you don't have to go through 5 lives that are the same. You clear them all in that one session. It's amazing what it does clear. And it's amazing how many people in past lives that we have in our little group of people that we meet in this life.
Yeah.
And by clearing that life, we can actually break the ties of those people in this life too.
Yeah.
But you're not flat out cold that you can't control yourself. Basically, it's like you're closing your eyes and I'm asking you some questions, but they're not questions that make it that I'm asking you the answer. Basically, I'm asking you questions and you're just telling me as it is, like a story. And if you turn around and say to me, oh, I can't deal with this, well, I'll bring you back. That's it. It's all that you're. It's all that you're.
I do have a friend who wants past life regression as well.
There's different kinds, there's different types, but this is all done with love, really. I can't do Michael. When I was doing my training and I had to do, so many clients as part of my training, I tried him several times. I could have thrown a book at him. I didn't. He was the only one that I never got results from, and I think that's because he was too close to me, But he's stubborn anyway. He would have been, I'm going to prove her wrong, he would have been, But there's different kinds, and you've just got not to fear it. Because with past life regression, you can also take people forward into the future.
Well, you know, the thing is with that, it's like people go, I can't think it's that woman that I went to see in Leeds a few times, Trent. Yeah. The stuff she told me were the minute details of the things that blow my mind. But she said to me, the past sort of like 10 years has been everything that she talked about. Yeah, we were talking maybe, I went here in 2005. So it was years and years and years past before anything started to happen that she'd even talked about. But she knew my future, and I'm like, how the hell? How?
But sometimes it's very good to know when people are able to tell you things about your future, because like I said before, we're in control. If somebody tells you, on such and such a day, David's going to do such and such, if he doesn't want that to happen, he can change that now before it occurs. And in that, you know, that what I say when we've got free will, these things when these people say, oh, this all happened and it worked, that all happened because you expected it to happen. It was meant to happen. But if you feel in your life you're at a crossroads, you're always at a crossroads, and we all know at a crossroads there's always four roads. If you start and go down road A, you've got to take the consequences. But if you find it's not for you, you can come back to those crossroads and you can change it and go down road B. And, you know, your life is, you're perfectly in control. That's what I learned about past life regression, you know, and also the future we can go into future, you know, pregression and things. But it's up to us. We can change. You know, nothing is set in stone. And this is what people don't understand, that when you go for a reading with a medium, and I've done it myself, and you tell people things about, you're not supposed to predict, but you tell things about what is going to occur in their lives. Now, you know, if you are so determined that that's going to happen, you'll allow your life for that to happen. But if you say, I don't want that to happen in my life, well, the fact that you're already thinking like that is changing it. They're only giving you what they're telling you, what they can see. You could go out of your house tomorrow after I've told you something maybe, and you could meet somebody and that person could take you down a whole different path and your life can change. So nothing is set in stone. You have to remember that at the end of the day, you're in control of everything, or you should be.
Well, I don't feel it. And if I was in control of it, then, mind you, saying that, I haven't had any ET stuff for a while. I've seen UFOs, but no, not really had anything.
I don't
weird stuff, but not ET stuff. In 2012, I did kick off royally.
I don't just mean about ET, I mean about your whole life.
But what I'm saying is, you're telling me that I'm in control. If I was in control, none of that would have happened. They wouldn't have touched my kids. They would not have touched my kids. They wouldn't have been able to. They would not have done what they did to my family.
It depends on your mindset as well at the time, because if your mindset is in a stage where, I mean, I've been there too, you know, that if you're not well and your mindset is in a dark place, you haven't got the energy to be in control. But that doesn't mean to say that you can't be. I mean, I tried to kill myself. I suffer from depression. I get very low and things, and I have to keep myself busy and that in order to lift myself up. and I'm a person, not all day or every day, but I like people around me. I like to have people around me. I like people and things, and it hasn't happened. So I do feel down at times. And like you, I've got a lot of ill health and things, and that doesn't make me feel that I'm in total control as I used to be. But I want to be that person again. I don't want anybody else, like a doctor or anyone, making decisions. You know, I don't want that anymore. I want to be the one that I'm in. So we can be, but again, your mindset plays a big part in everything that you do. When all those things were happening to me, I was in a good space, but before that I wasn't in a good space. And I mean, you know, I'd had everything. I'd had 14 miscarriages, I'd you name it, I had it within a space of a few years. I had my father died, that was a big thing. And you know, we've just got to, well, not cope, but we've got to not allow it to take over as lives, and we do, because that's just being human. And we can, with the best will in the world, say we're not going to do this anymore, or I'm not going to be like that. And we can start off with the greatest intention, but further down the line, if something goes wrong, you know, in your life, whatever that could be something very little.
Yeah.
It can take you right back down. But most of the time in your life, when you're in the right space, that is the easiest way to say it, we can be in control. We don't have to allow other people to be in control of who we are or what we want. I mean, living on Earth as a planet we are very controlled with whatever we do. But so even though they say that we live in a free world, we don't really, because wherever you go, whatever you do, there's a rule at work, there's a rule at school, there's a rule at this, there's a rule at hospital, whatever. But we have to try and, you know, allow ourselves to be as free and allow ourselves to have our own opinion, and our kids as well, so that they're not brought up to be like robotic, you know, things, you know, and that, and it's
Cheers from the sausage factory.
yeah, it's like attracts like at the end of the day. That's what they say. And when I first started, I used to do counselling for people who had been abducted, and that were no fault of their own, and that. But I found that 9 times out of 10, the people who'd been abducted every time they got abducted, they were just about in a negative space. So their vibrations were attracting. I'm not saying it was their fault. I'm not saying that at all. But I'm saying that because they were in a lower vibration, maybe because of previous abductions or whatever, they were attracting a lot of the negative energy, which was turning out to be another abduction. But once they, well, in my group, this is all I can say. I can't say that for everybody. I can only say that from my experiences with the people that came to me for counselling. Once they raised the vibration and they had the willpower and the mind that they didn't want it to happen, it actually stopped.
Well, that's not what I've come across, but
you know, I can only go by what I experienced with those people. I can't say that's for everyone, but it actually stopped. They actually stopped, and they used to say the greys and the grey vibration that go together. But 9 times out of 10, you know, there were only one person that it didn't work for, but he ended up that he was mental anyway, and I didn't know that at the time, because as you know, this subject attracts everything, you know.
Yeah, I mean, that just seems to be a load of victim blaming to me. Like, oh, you're having all this bad experience because you're at a low vibration, it's your own fault, raise your vibration. No,
saying it with their own fault.
Listen,
I'm saying that because they were down, when you are down and you're depressed, it's on a lower energy or a lower vibration.
No, but what I'm saying is that is weaponized within ufology. Ufology is entirely a dangerous thing. It savages, it doesn't create, it destroys. Yeah? And that whole concept has been weaponized and literally levelled against us every single time we even dare mention that we've had a negative experience. It's your own fault. You should raise your vibration. You're at a lower vibration and you're attracting it. It's because you're such a negative person that you're having these experiences. That's literally what gets called all over us all of the time, in all the groups, in all the discussions. Every single time, without fail, we get attacked. So I hate that whole thing there that you said. I hate it with a passion.
I didn't know
so weaponized. Yeah.
I didn't know anything about ufology when that happened. That was just something that I did on my own back. Nobody told me. That's what I did to try. And whether it was luck or whatever, it worked. But I aren't saying that not all those people were negative people. They were just in a negative place at that time when it happened. Yeah. I'm not saying that because some of them turned out to be really lovely people and became friends, and things. You know, when you are feeling down. I know myself when I'm feeling down, everything goes wrong. Everything goes wrong. But that don't make you, I wouldn't say that makes you a bad person in any way. And when I did that, it was just, I did that through instinct. Nobody taught me that. I hadn't even been at that stage to one UFO conference, so there was nothing there that influenced me to be like that.
Yeah. I want to ask those people who weaponize that idea or that reality, whatever, what it was that my 3-year-old son had done to deserve it. You know what I mean? So. Well,
apparently, from what I understand, I can't say this as something that I've experienced, but from what I understand, abductions do run in families.
Yes, it is.
And it's to do with the genetics of that family.
I wonder what that is, though. I wonder what's the interest in my family.
The genetics of the human, because a lot of the ETs that are doing this, they were negative humans, beings anyway. They're not on a high vibration. They can't breed anymore because they've lost. They're into breeding so much, as you know, when you interbreed so much, whether it's a dog or wherever, eventually you have faults and you have genetic, things go wrong. So that's where, as far as I understand, from what I have been learning through my guides, this is why a lot of abductions are taking place. It's to try and bring the genetics back up. But the government are allowing this to happen, and they shouldn't be. They shouldn't be, because... Pardon?
I don't think they've got a choice. How is our pathetic government that couldn't organise a piss-up in a fully stocked bar going to...
I don't believe this one is, but I believe in the past, I believe. But... It was, and of course, it's not just the negativity of you that creates this. It's the negativity of where you are, because even countries have karma. So if that country is in a dark space, everybody in that country is going to suffer.
Yeah. Well,
it's not necessarily
to energy forms and thought forms and things that live in the ether.
So that's it. I mean, countries have bad karma. If you look at England,
good luck, America.
Yeah, look at England, look what it's done in the past. It's history, what England has done in the past over the years at different parts of the world.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not to be proud of, is it?
Not really, but we did have our own culture and our own national identity at one point when we were pagan tribes, which was wiped out by the Romans.
Yes, I know. And that's where, from that point, that's when it's all gone wrong, because they've tried to bring in everything and anything, and it's not working.
No, but that vein has still continued, where country after country is losing its culture and its identity, and pretty soon will just be this homogenous lump of humanity with no identity.
I know.
That's if they get there.
Yeah, that's the plan, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, ladies, I think we'd better leave it there. I thought we were going to wind it up about 2 hours ago, but
this is one of mine and Laura's typical we just talk about literally
we kicked off again, didn't we?
We agree to disagree, but we don't fall out, do we?
No.
And that's the difference with people. And that's the difference. And that's the difference with spiritual people. Most spiritual people on this journey can have different opinions and still get on. But in general, people that aren't on a spiritual path don't have that understanding to do that. And that's...
on the path to understanding. So we all are, aren't we?
Yeah.
And so even like people where I've had clashes, certain people, obviously, I will never give them the time of day again, but I don't think badly of everyone. Shit happens,
We've just got to understand that that's where they're at, and that's,
and I don't need that in my life,
No.
There's certain things now where I just go, okay, well, there's a lot I like about you, but also there's some stuff that I just can't vibe with, and now I feel if anyone's going to be a disruption, I'm not afraid to say, I'm sorry, I can't do this. Bye.
Yeah. You've got to speak up. I speak up now more than I ever did, and that has happened, funny enough, and Michael will tell you, since I had the walk-in, my personality changed complete. I was such a mouse. And I'll tell you, when I met Michael and he used to go camping and caving and all that with his friends, I wouldn't come out of the tent. I wouldn't even speak to people. I wouldn't even, if somebody said jump, I'd have jumped. I was one of those people until I had that walking experience. I don't want to go back to that, and I never will. I never can. Yeah. And hopefully a lot of these people that will wake up, with what's going on. Maybe they'll have traumatic experiences that give them to see the light. You know what I mean? I hope so, because it needs to be a conscious decision for the masses, not just one.
I agree with you.
Absolutely.
Well, let's hope some people have learnt something from what you've been saying. I think I have.
Oh, I hope so.
It's been very interesting, Laura. As I say, I've been quite impressed with the way you've performed tonight.
Well, do you know what Sam's words were tonight? I said, I've got to go, because he always rings when I'm making tea. I said, I've got to go. I said, I'm making tea, and I'm coming on your radio show. And he said, oh, well, you'll do all right. You're good at talking.
Well, he was right.
He's ringing me tomorrow, but he says to give everybody his love.
Oh, I'll give him my love. Yeah.
I hope he gets to listen to the show anyway.
Well, I hope that people have found it interesting, and I hope that it lifts your viewers up for you. And the shows I've heard and listened to, and are really well presented and very entertaining and informative, and I hope that it continues, because we need platforms like this.
Thank you very much. I'll do my best.
Thank you very much for having me, and again, thanks for speaking with yourself and Sacha, and I hope that we can talk again.
Well, I hope
soon.
to run into you again at some point. You never know.
Okay, thank you
all right,
again.
Laura. And you, Sacha, thanks again for joining in, and
Oh, I've enjoyed
and
it.
I mean, you've brought up some good subjects as well, as always.
Thank you very much. Thanks again.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah,
Bye,
good night,
love.
Laura. Good night, Sasha.
Bye.
Thanks very much for your help. Right, you've been listening to Paranormal Dimensions on the Paranormal UK Radio Network. Thanks for listening, and I hope you'll join me again next week. Thank you. Good night.
Paranormal Dimensions is as bright and powerful as our celestial star, the sun. And although it's expending thousands of pounds of energy every minute of the day, have no fear. There's plenty left.
Paranormal Dimensions is a regular feature on Mondays on the Paranormal UK Radio Network.